loan. You yet you talk. Lo neck blue you. So me kiss him neck blue na me like ask him. You was man ya. Walk blow you. You know walk blow me. Walk blow me law. Support him you also government country na talk walk him.
You collect 60 million?
Yeah.
So your organization collects 60 million in levies.
Yeah.
What do you do with that money? What does your organization do with that money? That's a lot of money, 60 million.
It's a lot of money, yes.
And so you're now telling us you don't have the capacity to regulate, enforce the law, send inspectors, conduct investigations, yet you're saying you get 60 million a year?
We need to look at that. We need to talk about that.
We need to look at it or we need to do it?
Look at it to do it.
Looking at it can take a few years. We don't have a few years. Stand
Okay,
seriously.
okay.
Problem em stabia. All people blame me, but start killing all man about now. You know, it's going to make us all look bad on the world.
It's because we let them. It's because we let them. We're responsible. We're at the gates, we're at the doorway, and we're letting them come in here and do this to our people. Shame on us. On my left, we have the Honourable William Powie, Governor for Southern Highlands. On my immediate left, we have the Honourable Allan Bird, Governor for East Sepik Province. On my right, we have Sir Peter Ipatas, Governor for Enga, and Honourable Rufina Peter, Governor for Central Province, and Member for Wawaria, Honourable Marsh Narawak, who are members of this committee. The head of secretariat is Mr. David Sode, and he has a research team that have put all this together for us. Basically, we've been asked to look at the alluvial mining sector. We've been asked by members of industry, concerned Papua New Guineans, members of parliament, other stakeholders, to take a very careful look at what's going on in the alluvial mining sector in Papua New Guinea. Once a very robust, well-managed sector, now facing some challenges and difficulties, and giving rise to concerns from stakeholders, especially those who are legitimate players, I would like to say, those who are making the effort to pay their taxes, employ Papua New Guineans or others, and run their businesses in accordance with the law. We've started to see the entry and operation of organizations, individuals that aren't respectful of these laws, the laws of this country, and that are behaving in a way that can be said to be either criminal in some instances or just flaunting the laws that we have in this country. So our team has paid a visit to a number of sites, has spoken to a number of stakeholders, has looked at the information that's available, as well as intelligence and data that has been made available to us about what is happening in this country, and it's quite alarming. And so we felt that it was important that we hold this hearing as a starting process. And from here we will have a series of hearings that will continue as we delve deeper into this sector to find out what is really happening. We would like to start with the state entities that have been created to protect and promote PNG interests. How are they performing? What are they doing? How can they improve? And what about those, say, in the political sphere? How can we improve? What can we do? Etc., etc. This is not a finger-pointing exercise. I just want to make that clear. We're not accusing any particular organization or individual, but what we're trying to do is find out what's happening. What's going on? What's going wrong? After 50 years, there should be a great reset, and those of us that are in charge of parliamentary committees, which are mandated to be the voice of the people of Papua New Guinea, eyes and ears, separate from executive government, independent of executive government, we are responsible for making this effort. So I want to thank my fellow colleagues for making the time available, especially during this very busy part of the year. And without further ado, we'll commence. I noticed that some of our regulatory agencies are here, and I thank you for coming, making the effort. We've asked MRA, Mineral Resource Authority, we've asked Bank of PNG, we've asked Customs, we've asked Central Bank, we've asked the IRC, we've also asked Immigration, and we've also asked Labor and SEPA, the Environment Protection Authority, all of whom play a role in this sector, very important role. Then we've also asked members of industry to turn up and give their thoughts. You know, they're right there in the forefront of all these activities, and they can tell us exactly what's going on, their observations, their opinions, etc. We're also fortunate to have the presence of the Gold Council, the Artisanal Gold Council in Papua New Guinea, represented here by Dr. Kevin Telma. And Sean, I apologize, I forgot your surname.
Polor.
Polor.
B-L-O-R-E.
B-L-O-R-E.
Yeah.
My apologies, Sean. So they will be giving us a very in-depth report on, you know, the state of artisanal gold mining in the world and focusing in on what's happening in Papua New Guinea and how that relates to what's happened in other parts of the world, et cetera, and the dangers that we as a nation face if we don't take stock of what's happening, arrest the trend, and get back on track. Apparently, according to, and I won't steal your thunder, Dr. Telmo, but he will give us an analysis of how the industry was running in Papua New Guinea since independence, and it was very refreshing to hear that this was a well-managed sector. The artisanal or alluvial gold mining sector was very well managed, and stakeholders were largely happy and operating very well until recent times. So, thank you very much. Without further ado, I think we'll start with MRA. I believe MRA is here. Steve Nekitel from MRA. The Managing Director advised that he could not be here. He had been directed by the Prime Minister on a very urgent matter to do with Wafi Golpu, so he's heading to attend to that, and he asked if he could send his second in charge, and hence he sent Mr. Nekitel, who's worked with the MRA for many years, and he'll explain exactly what his role is and inform us where we're going. So please make yourselves comfortable. The media are here, this is live, telecast live. Members of my committee will jump in at any time and ask questions that they feel need to be asked. And again, this is not a finger-pointing exercise. This is an effort to try to understand what's happening and what we can do to correct things that are going wrong. Thank you very much. Mr. Nekitel, please.
Thank you very much, Chairman, Honorable Gary Juffa. My name is Stan Nekitel. I've been registrar for the Mineral Resource Authority since its establishment, and prior to that as well in the Department of Mining. Yeah, well, you know, I've been working for the department for almost 30 years. Apologies from the MD, is not able to be here because he's attended to another related meeting relating to Wafi Golpu, so with the PM, so he's not able to be here. I'm sitting in on MRA's behalf. Now, the alluvial sector is a very critical sector. It's a big sector in the country, especially it involves majority of our grassroots people, villages. So in the last 15 years, in the peak of alluvial production, it produces about 120,000 ounces of gold. And also at its peak, it generates about 650 million kina at its peak. But that has dwindled. It's gone down to, in 2023, so the lowest. It generated 40,000 ounces of gold, which bring in about 120 million kina. So that's the lowest that we have gone down in 2023. That there's a lot of factors that can be considered. that has brought this brought the price and brought production down.
Mr. Nekitel, can I interrupt? Could you just give me those figures again, please?
Okay, at its peak in 2020, it produces 120 ounces of gold, which brings in 650 million kina in revenue. That, yeah, it has dwindled to 2023 it produces 40,000 ounces of gold. That brings in up to 150 million kina. MRA, we are the regulator of the law. We don't create law, Parliament creates law. We just regulate the law as it is. The law that we are mandated under the under the MRA Act 2018, as amended, enables us to regulate the Mining Act 1992. Now, aspects of regulating the alluvial sector are all captured in that law, Mining Act 1992. We still regulate the Mining Act 1992. As you all know, the revised act is a bill now that's, I think, before Parliament. Only if the department was here, they should be able to update us on the progress. But currently, the formalized permits or permits that are issued, there are two types of permits that are issued for alluvial gold mining. One is AML, alluvial mining lease, and the other is ML for alluvial mining purposes. AML are restricted under the law to landowners only. You have to be a landowner, or you have to be a clan landowner to be eligible to apply for and obtain a mining alluvial mining lease. For mining lease, you don't necessarily have to be the landowner. You can be a national applying for any land in Papua New Guinea to do alluvial mining lease. You can also do it in a joint venture arrangement with foreign investors. So if you're engaging with foreign investors, it has to be in the ratio of ownership of the lease, in the ratio 51% in favor of a national and 49% in favor of a foreign investor. So that's the law which we regulate. Anyway, we have a lot of challenges in the sector. We have identified 8 major challenges that we are faced with. I will name them and also discuss what initiative that we have tried to commence to try to arrest the challenges that are faced in the sector. Number one is compliance challenges. Compliance with the law. We know, we understand that a lot of our people are illiterate, but they're engaged in the sector. Reading and understanding the law is a challenge, very big challenge. How it applies to them, how it regulates, how we regulate them in that space. It's a challenge, big challenge. We have realized that mitigating that, we have the mining school in WOW, School for Small-Scale Alluvial Miners, which trains people in all aspects of engagement in the sector, regulatory, as well as technical, mining, processing, business. Also, we have a section there that trains people or advises them, trains them, and how they can get engaged in sustainable business and so forth. But the Act actually regulates from issuance of permits to production. So we are limited there. Beyond production, commercialization, we don't have a part to play. So that's challenge number one that we are faced with. Number two on my list here is illegal mining. It has become rampant recently. We have a lot of illegal mining happening. We try to identify by, main issue that we face is that capacity. MRA is an authority, but it follows the public service procurement process, recruiting people. So we have vacancies, we try to get people in to fill. Our packages may not be convenient to a lot of them. They eventually refuse. And we have to go through the process of recruitment again. So this is a challenge to us. Procurement, advertising, shortlisting, interviewing, making offer refused, you go through the whole process again. It's public service process. So we have manpower issue in trying to enforce the law, try to pull people who are doing illegal mining into line to follow the process, follow the law. Recently we have advertised, made an advertisement on paper to cap or stop for people engaged in the illegal activities to stop what they are doing and consult us and follow proper process according to law. We have now gone ahead to engage with law enforcers as well as immigrations to try to identify people. We're starting off in Waubulolo, identifying those that are doing illegal mining, and we at times use force to stop the activities, and then immigrations stepping in to see whether they have the proper permits to be in country or not. If you're breaking the law, you're breaking the law. You shouldn't be permitted to stay in this country. Basically, that's what it is. So we're doing that now, but we're handicapped a bit. Again, as I say, manpower, we need legal guidance on a lot of our processes, prosecution, all of that. But we are attending to it. We were talking to embassy of one particular country that a lot of illegal mining is associated with, people from their country. And we have embassy realized that those that were engaged in the illegal activity are from one part of certain province of that particular country, and a delegation, a government delegation from that country visited us, and we told them all about the law and activities that are going on, and they did talk to their citizens. So these are, some process that we try to do to, arrest the illegal mining activities, alluvial gold mining activities in the country. Another challenge that we face is gold smuggling. Everyone knows about gold smuggling. we know that, there are two channels: proper permitted gold exporters and other gold buyers. Now, the other gold buyers that don't have proper permits used to offer big prices. So we don't know how they're taking the gold out. But if you are buying at a high price, higher or equivalent to gold market price, you'll probably be taking it somehow out of the country. So our borders needs to be strengthened. Our borders needs to be strengthened. We go to align government agencies, land forces, to strengthen our borders so that, people don't smuggle these things out as and if when they want to. Benefit sharing. We have a lot of challenge in benefit sharing in terms of alluvial mining activities where our local leaseholders invite foreign investment into assisting them develop the leases. Negotiations were usually done by the foreign investors and forced on our illiterate people to just execute and give an effect to. In the long run, they may give money up front and people are happy signing, but at the end of the day, they realize that the money is gone, they don't have anything, the land is all mined out, they got nothing. So that's a challenge. We've tried to, outside of the law, in terms of benefit sharing arrangements, we'd like to see in law that the law sets some standard benefit rates on such operations. Obviously, it will depend on the cash flows and stuff, but if you're going to pay within 1 or 2 years your initial investment, why not set some laws where you revise agreements after 3 or 4 or 5 years to increase benefits to landowners. Currently, we've tried to make it's not in law, but MRA has tried to enforce on such arrangements, tribute arrangements, or joint venture arrangements, that the minimum you can benefits to the landowners should be around 20%. If it's below that, it may not be fair because, one person may own the lease, but he's holding the lease on behalf of the clan. It's a lot of people to share with. Okay, that's what benefit sharing. Technicalities of regulatory requirements is a challenge. The law requires for you to put a business proposal, for you to write up a joint venture or tribute agreements, for you to put in a compensation agreement. All these are more technical in nature. So the challenge with our people, because they're illiterate and they don't know the law well, they cannot write proper proposals in that. So they end up letting whoever the JV partner is write it for them, and usually it's in their beneficial interest. So that's the technicalities. We are also teaching, training people on technicalities of those documentation in our alluvial mining school in Wow. We'd like people to engage in alluvial mining. You have to be trained. You got to know all aspects of the regulatory requirements as well as the technical aspects of it. So we will be looking at reviewing the curriculum we have, identify gaps, to try to cover all aspects of the business in the curriculum that we train people. We used to train people or alluvial miners in Wa'abulolo. Another aspect is funding, non-availability. It's a big challenge for us. That's why we're getting in investors, because we don't have the capacity, financial capacity, to start alluvial mining activities. Because you need machineries, and machineries cost a lot of money. So if you don't have that money, you fall prey to the investors who have the money. So that's something that the government will have to look at. Creating avenues where soft loans of that sort can be sought by our grassroots people who wish to get engaged in the alluvial sector. Land and resource ownership, we know, is a challenge, because the law says otherwise. The law says the state owns the resource. Any resource, any earth resource, on land, in the water, everywhere else, the state owns that for the good of the state, the government, and its people. Does not bestow the rights to minerals on landowners. We have a policy that has been endorsed by NEC, I think, in 2021, that says that resource, alluvial gold, alluvial resource belongs to the people, but that has yet to be translated into law to be given effect to by the MRA. It's a challenge there. People talk about, my resource, but the law does not say that. We regulate the law that says that the state owns the resource. So I think that brings me to the end of the challenges that we are faced with and what we try to do to mitigate some of these issues that are faced. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Thank you, Sam. Members of the panel may ask any questions that they feel is necessary for further enlightenment. From myself, Sam, just curious, the mining school that you used to run, or you ran up in Wau, how much does it cost to run that school per year? And are you still getting the funds from your budget requirements or requests to fund those activities up there?
The school was established by the European Union 15 years ago. I think after 5 years it was transferred to MRA to fund wholly. So MRA is funding the operations of the school at the moment. I need to give you the figures. It's not in my head at the moment, so I'll find out the cost of running that school and we'll get back to you.
Thank you. Because we will be having a series of hearings, this is just the beginning of this journey. So that would be very important, because I think that's a very important effort by MRA to help educate our alluvial miners or those in the industry. So that would be useful. And if also you could condense what you have stated to us into a written, document that you can present. It's interesting to hear that from your opening remarks, gold prices have gone up, but what you're telling us is that gold production appears to be going down based on the figures here we have about the exports going out. It's unusual that in this country where we have substantial volumes of alluvial gold everywhere, the industry is recording a drop in exports. So I would suggest that would be, or I would assume that that's what is legally recorded, or recorded as legal exports. You have any comments in regards to that?
All leaseholders are required to report their production to the MRA on Form 25. Form 25 applies to those leaseholders with mining leases. You're required to report every month on production. Now for AML holders, you don't need to report every month, but you keep record of your production. You keep record of your production, and at the end of the year, you submit a complete written report with the statistics of your production, including value, meaning that we also ask for receipts to see how you're selling your gold and stuff like that. Either to gold buyers or to whichever ways means, yeah.
Just to clarify, Mr. Neketel, the level of mechanized mining and the level of investment in mechanized mining in the past 5 years has actually been considerable, more than any time in the past in the alluvial mining sector. Now, this significant investment in mechanized mining has somehow not translated into higher production. And hence, I think that's what the chairman was alluding to. Do you have any mechanism to audit all of these mechanized mining operations? Is there any mechanism that's currently in place? For example, how reliable is the information that we receive from these mining operators that are working in partnership with our landowners? If they are investing significantly, and we know the investment is still increasing, and the information tells us that production is going down, it's not increasing in line with the level of investment, then obviously logic suggests that there's something not right. And given the figures that you've told us were at peak, we were our small holder producers, and this is before the start of the investment, before the start of the mechanized investment from interest, production was at 120,000 ounces. We have all this investment in the last 5 years, and then production suddenly drops to 40,000 ounces. It's not correlating with the investment. So I'm coming back to this one. Do we have a mechanism that checks all of these mining investors, particularly in alluvial mining? Obviously, in your hard rock area, you've got systems there that collect the information for you from Oktedi, Pogra, and Lihir, and perhaps other smaller mines. But do you have anything in the alluvial mining sector that checks these mechanized mining operations in the alluvial sector, if they are actually reporting correctly or not?
No. Based on the fact that we have a capacity issue, I'd like to see the MRA has a compliance team that goes out if there is a question on the reports that we get, we suspect that something is not right. The compliance team will have to check on the ground. We just don't have the capacity to do that. We just at times.
Does MRA have any intention to put in such a mechanism?
We have an intention to do that. We have a restructure coming up. And
how long is that going to take?
I cannot give you an answer right now.
Is it going to take 1 year, 3
maybe
years,
1 year,
10 years?
Yeah. It's,
you see where my questions are going. We are going to miss this opportunity, and already we've lost 5 years or so, where it's quite evident that something is not right in the sector, and we are getting lots of complaints from our own people who say that they are victims in these arrangements. Well-meaning, the arrangements are well-meaning, but as you put it yourself, our people are not highly educated to understand what's happening. But we are educated enough to understand that the level of production should follow the level of investment. In this case, it's going in the opposite direction. So we know something is wrong. And the question is, as one of the responsible agencies, perhaps in terms of mining, you are the responsible agency. How quickly can we mount up an effort to ensure that the reports are done correctly, one, that our people are treated honestly and fairly, and such a mechanism, what would it cost? Because at the end of the day, yourself as the agency responsible for mining, if you have a capacity issue, this speaks to the mandate of this committee. This committee is a Public Sector Reform Committee, and this committee recognizes that there is a huge gap in the capacity to police the alluvial mining sector, and hence these inquiries have been put together to respond to the very serious concerns of our people. As you know, I think there's been a couple of deaths already where our people have taken the law into their own hands. They're dissatisfied with the services provided by their government in ensuring that their interests are protected. And our people are taking the law into their own hands because we are not, by we I mean you, your agency, has not responded quickly enough. And it comes back to this concern I have. If you are going to mount an intervention to resolve these very serious concerns that our people have, but not just our people. For me, speaking on behalf of the state, if the state owns this gold, as the law says, then someone is cheating us out of what the state is rightfully entitled to under law. So again, my serious concern about the speed at which I think you should be moving as the regulatory authority. So if I may suggest to you, on behalf of the chairman and the committee, that your agency takes a serious look at this, and we've got a budget coming up. I know funds are scarce across the country, but if we are going to, talking about an 80,000 ounce per year loss in gold production, that's pretty serious. I don't know what 80,000 ounces is worth these days. What's the price? $5,000 an ounce? Where is it sitting?
3,700.
3,700, thank you, sir, dollars an ounce. So that's over $240 million that is missing, and that has been missing for the last 4 years. And that's a serious deficit. Any country would be jumping up and down and be serious about how we intervene. So my suggestion to you is to talk to Mr. Gary, and all of you get these numbers together in terms of these losses, which are your own numbers that you provided to the committee, and make an urgent application to Treasury that this is a matter that needs to be prosecuted urgently. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Governor Bird. Mr. Nekitel, I think the questions are very straightforward. If you could prepare some responses to those. You can speak, obviously, and answer some if you can off the top of your head, but some written responses would be good. Indeed, it's very alarming that this is happening. Did this ring any alarm bells at all in your organization? Like, does your organization have an entity that would say, we're looking at these figures and we're very concerned that something's not adding up, so we're going to send a team to find out what's going on? Was that a consideration ever by your organization? And if so, then do you think it's a capacity issue? Does your organization have analysts, investigators, people who are qualified to go out there and find out what's happening? With, what's happening in the world is that the gold price is shooting and continuously, breaking records. And production is evident everywhere you care to look. Wherever there's alluvial gold activities, there is, every man and his dog is out there panning away somewhere. So there's more people involved. Then there's mechanized mining. Then we have very credible intelligence. You can see it. You don't, need to just hear about it. If you take a trip to, say, Bulola Wow, for instance, or anywhere where there's alluvial mining, you can see foreign entities involved. So this tells us that there is a huge flurry of activity, but as you yourself have pointed out, production has dropped, and as Governor Bird has stated. So just very quickly, Mr. Nekitel, does your organization have within itself a capacity to analyze this information and react? And if not, then why not? Is it a funding issue? What are your thoughts? I'd just like your thoughts on that.
we rely on reports that we get, but we should have the capacity to follow on the reports. If we know that something is not right and report does not correlate or equate to what actually activity on the ground in that, it's our duty to go and check to make sure that people are reporting honestly and correctly. We regulate from permitting to production, post-production commercialization of valuable minerals is the responsibility of the bank, central bank. So we assist in providing stats on the production, but when it comes to permitting exports, the bank takes over that responsibility. So we do collaborate with the bank to try and check authorized gold exporters to make sure that what they produce for export, they do not conceal things in their exports. All of that. I think it really has to do with our borders and its tightening. To check properly, there's a lot of compromising, I would say, that allows these materials to get through our borders. So, again, as I say, exporting, commercialization is the responsibility of the bank. We don't permit that. We just assist to make sure that, activities leading up to that are done properly according to our law.
Mr. Nekitel, sorry for interrupting. Does your organization have enforcement capabilities, say, to carry out an investigation and prosecute? So, for instance, we've got organizations that are lodging these reports. Now, it's common knowledge that a lot of organizations are not giving you the right information or, factual information, because it's also common knowledge that there's a lot of illegal exports taking place, smuggling, if you will. In fact, I think just not too long ago, customs intercepted a significant volume of gold that was about to be smuggled out. And I want to put on note here that we have MRA Central Bank as well as customs here. The other organizations that we asked to turn up that have not turned up are the Labor Department, Migration, and the Environment Protection Authority. So we will be sending notices, but since this is a public hearing, I want to mention this so that the people of our country know that these organizations, for whatever reason, have not bothered to turn up. They are also very important players in this industry. So, Mr. Nekitel, we're going to have a conversation and continue. We're starting to see that what you're basically telling us is that your organization doesn't have the capacity. That's what we're starting to conclude here. We'd like to hear from the central bank. And the central bank here is, actually, it's a segment of the central bank known as FASU. Am I correct? Mr. Onea here is representing that organization. And they were given a separate invitation, so they've come as FASU. So again, we also note that central bank, who had been given the invitation, have not turned up, which is unfortunate because, as you have mentioned, they're the organization that we would really like to hear about or hear from. After that, we will hear from customs as well. They've sent one of their senior officers here, and he can also give us an explanation. But members, if there's any further questions of Mr. Nekitel, please feel free to ask.
Chairman, I have some questions. Mr. Nekitel, good morning to you.
Good morning, member.
All right, I'm from the Bulolo area. So my question, I think some of the questions are from my constituents that that needs to be cleared. Firstly, I would like to ask about the lead, especially about the lead tenure system. All right, as you know, Bulolo area is not a new district. It's in an existing mining area. So we have mining leases. Not only mining leases during the colonial area, but we also have agricultural leases and conservation leases, and also urban development lease and all this. And in recent times, because of the high price of gold or whatever it is, there's a high activity of mining taking place, small-scale mining taking place. And now people are applying for leases on those agricultural leases and conservation leases over that area. My questions are, can alluvial mining lease AML or a mining lease for alluvial purpose ML can be given over an existing lease like an agricultural lease or a conservation lease?
Thank you, member. As I mentioned earlier, we regulate the law. In the law that we regulate, the only lease that the minister responsible should be consulted is the land reserved. Land reserved under the Lands Act by the minister responsible. That's the only lease that's made reference to in the law. Apart from that, all other leases can coexist. Mining leases can be issued over agricultural lease or vice versa, for different purposes, of course. You don't get an agricultural lease to do mining. You get an agricultural lease to do agriculture. Okay? You get a mining lease to do mining. Resource is owned by the state. State issues leases for the purpose of mining minerals, not for agriculture. So leases can coexist. Member. Yeah. For SIPA, yes. The SIPA conservation areas in Wa and Bulolo, I have been exhaustively converted into mining areas. So the specific purpose for SIPA should be here to explain this, but SIPA will have to advise. We have a SIPA rep sitting on our Mining Advisory Council that advises the minister on grant or on issuing of the lease or not to issue leases. So they are the ones that advises whether we can issue leases on conservation areas or not. So they are always consulted when the Mining Council sits to deliberate on mining lease applications, whether on SIPA conserved areas or not. So we listen to their advice on that. We know from SIPA there's a conservation area which I think should really be de-gazetted. You have to gazette a conservation area to make it effective. This specific area in Bulolo is still active, but the purpose for which the conservation area or license or permit has been issued no longer serves the purpose. It is, I think, for the local pine trees or something. There's no longer, fires have destroyed the pine trees and there's nothing existing at the moment. So it's taken over by alluvial miners and most of them doing illegal. So the place has been turned upside down with alluvial mining. Thank you, member.
Okay, further to that, so an agriculture lease and a mining lease can coexist. Now, who will mine in that? Any other person, or the person who has the agriculture lease can mine on that?
AMLs, alluvial
for
mining.
ML.
For ML, the applicant. If the applicant, whoever the applicant is, it can be any national. Does not necessarily mean the agricultural leaseholder. Any national can apply for and obtain a mining lease for alluvial mining.
Over that agriculture
Over
lease.
that agricultural lease, yes.
So
different purposes. There's compensation provided for in the Mining Act. Now, if your trees are damaged or land, whatever is damaged, you can resort to compensation. Compensation is there, provisions provide for compensating for loss of revenue or loss of whatever commercial trace there is.
Okay, I'm trying to ask a question related to lands, but hopefully you can be able to answer that. It's some agricultural leases there over 99 years. So like they say it goes back to the state. Is that true?
I wouldn't answer you there. If it's an agricultural lease, for mining lease I can answer.
Does it go back to the original customary landowners, or it goes back to the state? I mean the title or whatever it is.
My understanding is it becomes a, reverts back to the customary. I don't know. The lands people will have to advise.
All right,
Provide advice for that.
So it can, when we ask the lands secretary, he'll be able to answer. Okay, my other question. So we have the alluvial mining list for customary landowners and mining list for any Papua New Guineans.
Correct.
For alluvial mining list, how do you verify if the person who applied is a customary landowner? What sort of process you have in place to verify if that person applied is a customary landowner?
Okay. In applications, there are certain things that are considered when a customary landowner or anyone lodges an application for permitting, processing and permitting. One thing that we check for is evidence for AMLs, we check for evidence of land ownership. Because the law says AMLs are reserved for landowners.
Mm-hmm.
So we check for preliminary checks, we check for evidence of land ownership. Do you have a certificate of land registration? If you don't, then there's we resort to, provided for in law as well, we resort to a statutory declaration. Now, statutory declaration is a court document. You declare in the courts or witnessed by a commissioner of oaths that what you're saying is true. You are a landowner to be eligible to apply for the mining lease on the land that you own. We check for those two things. I know I don't have evidence, but once you read through the applications, you will know that certain things can be falsified. I know that a lot of statutory declarations have been falsified. But as a regulator, we go by face value of whatever documentation that is placed in front of us.
So you can confirm that there is an issue with in terms of verifying the true customary landowner of that AML. That process can be improved.
I think it can be improved. It needs to be put to the people that you got to follow the law. I mean, you cannot falsify statutory declarations, but you go to court and court assists you in producing that falsified documents. You see, these are the challenges that exist in our country.
So we recently we are reviewing the Mining Act. Have you contribute or make any amendments to that act to make sure that the process is correct in law?
We make some recommendations in there, but the department, the MPGM, they're supposed to be here to explain. They're the ones responsible for making laws, mining-related laws, drafting laws. We did review the bill and we did make our comments. Certain things that we think needs to be strengthened in law, we have made contributions towards that. It's really for them to, take it in and put it into the draft bill that comes to Parliament.
Thank you. So for AML and ML, alluvial mining lease and mining lease for alluvial purpose, should AML mechanized mining be involved in AML. AML can be, you know, you can use excavator or walking. You're supposed to make at alluvial mining list. Can we use excavator and to dig up the land, or we just have to use the, you know, the normal rudimentary process?
Now, going back to the law, in law it says mechanized mining. If you want to engage in mechanized mining, you have to have a proper issued permit, AMLs or MLs. It does not break down the different levels of the mechanized activity for AML or for ML. It just says mechanized mining. So if you're using machines to mine, you got to have leases to mine.
Okay, so you can use mechanized mining in both AML and ML.
I think generally it's captured in law, yeah.
I think, are you not so?
Well, it's captured in law as mechanized mining.
Okay.
So mechanized mining, you have to have permits. There's no specific level of mechanized activity for alluvial mining or for mining lease. So it says if it's mechanized mining, you got to obtain proper permits. AMLs, again, is reserved for landowners. MLs, anyone can do. Yeah.
Okay, for just one question, based on your earlier information, you say we have 51% and 49% benefit sharing between leaseholder and developer, you know, your partner. That's in law. So, but in tribute arrangement, that's formed a tribute arrangement, or it does not cover the tribute arrangement.
Okay, the 4951 in favor of any national, it's ownership or equity participation. Mm-hmm. Equity, you have an equity in a project, you fund it as per your equity holding in the project. So 4951 talks about ownership. I can own the lease, I own it 51%, and a foreigner owns it 49%. Okay, but when it comes to, you have to fund your ownership of the project to participate in the benefits. If you don't have the capacity to fund your equity, then tribute arrangement is considered. So you have a separate agreement with whoever it is that is funding the activity for benefit sharing purposes. Okay, you don't contribute anything to the development. I said yeah, that's where the 20% I mentioned comes in.
Okay.
Yeah. You can negotiate down to 20%. If it's below that, we will say it's not equitable, it's not fair to the whoever the leaseholder is, who then shares with the community or tribute arrangement is where the benefit sharing is agreed to. Okay, it's an agreement, joint venture agreement, tribute agreement. You pass on your rights to another person to mine your lease, but it's going to put up the funding and capital. So he has the right to negotiate for a deal that will settle his investment, cost, and all of that. And then depends on, it is a negotiable thing. You go to negotiate and come up with an agreement. You don't negotiate, then it won't be fair. But you see, because of money up front, people just getting money because they want money. You know, they blindly are misled by whoever the investor is, writing up JV mining agreements. May not be fair, but you know, when we assess that, it is approved separately. So once we assess that, we see that percentage is not equitable. Or we say, go and revise, do it again, do it properly, so that you know there's fair benefits to the local landowners or leaseholders.
Okay, this is another question about the warden hearings. Now, several of my constituents say that they have strongly argued against the issue of mining lease to the applicants, but most often their arguments are not being considered, and there's no response from MRA with regards to their arguments. They've made written arguments to not to issue mining list to that particular applicant, but MRA has not listened to them and actually not responded to them, giving reasons why they have not, listened to their arguments. So is MRA liable, or is MRA supposed to respond to those who object against a mining list in a warden hearing?
Response to objections are not required under the law. The council is created or mandated to consider objections. So the objections that needed clarification or needed to be responded to, we try and respond as regulators. Otherwise, all objections are considered by the Mining Advisory Council when the applications come up for considerations for the minister's determination. Consideration by the council, and minister determines whether to grant or refuse. But the advice comes from Mining Advisory Council. One of the mandate is to look at objections, whether it has merit or not. Usually meritorious objections are considered. A simple objection: I don't like you, I like this other person. Mining is a national, is of national significance in the country. You all know, mining contributes a lot towards the economy of this country, so it takes, it's given that special recognition as an activity of national interest. So objections has to have merits. I don't like you because I like this other investor. Would like to promote an industry that has let's say there's a playing field that's equal to all, so that we're not biased against investment in the sector. If we, listen to some of these objections because, I like this one, I don't like that, there's a potential of killing investment in the sector. So we got to be fair in everything that we do. Yeah.
Yes, but that merit or not, that should be communicated to the people who object. The thing is, they are kept in the dark. They don't know why their objections are not being listened to, or, they need to be responded. So is there any way we can improve on that? If their objection has no merit, we should advise them why we have not considered their objections. Is MRA in a process to advise they waste time to go to the wording hearings, they waste time to write that objection, but they have not received any response from MRA why their objections are not being heard. That's a two-way thing. So are you considered any way you can respond to their objections, why you have not considered their objections, keep them informed?
Yeah, objections that we feel that, there's lack of maybe some understanding about the law and stuff like that, we try to respond and put them at a space where they can understand. Otherwise, general objections goes to the council, as I said, but we are not compelled by law to respond to objections.
Can you make change to the law so that you can compel to the law to respond? This is a consultative constitution we are in. So if people object, they need to be informed. Can you make changes to the law so that any objections to any ordinary, because I'm customary, I'm ground long only. Or less law, to one you must wine receive him this la doctor long, please. Can you make changes to the law? Recommend so that we can make changes to the law. See, I understand that.
I know that. We'll take it in, and the bill is still there. I think we got to consider holding on to it a bit. So certain things like what's raised now can be captured in law.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, last one from me. You mentioned that you have capacity issues. You're looking for funding to put in recruit staff and all this. Now, we DDAs and provincial governments, we are signing MOU with the Cocoa Board, CIC, Coffee Industry Corporation. I'm wondering, is MRA and SIPA signing any MOU or MOA with DDAs and provincial governments to delegate some functions to them to perform at the, you are far, far down at Waigani. And we are with the people on the ground. We know what is happening. The local level government is know what is happening at the ground level, the provincial government, the DDAs. Have you signed any understanding with any DDAs or any provincial government to delegate some of your functions to them?
No, we have not, member. Certain provincial governments have established desks within the administration to have an officer there or people there to coordinate between them and ourselves, the ministry, on mining matters. So it's initiative taken by its provincial government. Really, we are not. We are established by the MRA is established by the separate act. It would be good if that act is also considered for review, so that to look at establishing the concern that you have raised for MRA to have officers. We have liaison officers, but we don't have specific officers with provincial governments to look at mining matters, and a lot of issues arise anyway. It's good to have districts, but to have officers in districts. But as I said, it's an initiative the provincial governments take it upon themselves to establish the mining office within the provincial administration.
Yeah, I understand, but we currently have patrol officers at local level government, and even officers, public servants already existing in provincial government and districts and local level government. So it will be good to utilize them instead of waiting to recruit new people. Some of the functions can be delegated to them to play at that role level. Now they are all folding their hands together and looking for MRA to play that role. And MRA is looking to recruit staff. So that partnership can happen. I think you should consider that. And Wawaria, we actually wrote a letter and approached you guys to have that partnership, so that there's some roles that we can play, because it is really affecting us at the at the district level and NLG level. So we would really want a partnership, so some of the functions we can play at that level to, especially for environment purpose. All digging gold there, or else in ground, all no dispose him wesan all diverting water nabat come back up in road. This sort of things, you are far up there and you cannot play that role down there. So those sort of things that we would like up. So I'm also concerned for me, if you can consider that, and we can have some sort of partnership at the local level government or provincial or DDA level, so that some of those things you can delegate that functions to us. Thank you. Just for your consideration.
I take note.
Chairman, that's all from me. Thank you.
One final comment. If you, given your 30 years of experience in this particular role in your organization, obviously you would have a wealth of experience for us in the country. So considering that, and given the concerns that the committee has just raised for your attention, as you know, for me, I'm concerned that there's about approximately $300 million worth of gold that seems to be missing, that we can't identify as a country. We can't identify what's happened to this gold. So given your 30 years experience, I would suggest that you're one of our experts. What would you suggest to this committee in terms of what we can do to help improve this situation, not just for our alluvial miners, but and our landowners, but for the country as a whole, given your wide scope of experience in the sector. And you don't have to answer now if it's a very big question. You can take note and perhaps submit to us something in writing that we can incorporate as part of our report. We're not just here to ask you questions, we're also here to take, to draw from your significant experience. So if I may say that in closing. Thank you, Mr. Negitel.
Chairman.
Governor Ipatras first, and then Governor Poe next with your comments. And then we can move on to the central bank. With the central bank, I believe we have Mr. Onea from FASU, and we also have Mr. Ogomeni, who's with the intelligence section of the organization. So it would probably be good to have you up here so you can give us your insights. But in the meantime, I'll hand over to Governor Ipatras and Governor Poe soon after so that they may ask their questions, and then we'll wrap up with MRA and move on to central bank. Thank you. Governor Ipatras, please. Governor Rufina Peter will start first, and then Governor Ipatras, and we'll wrap up with Governor Poe.
Thank you. So my question is a bit similar to what Governor Bird has said, but specifically for the alluvial mining sector. So we were actually pleased to hear that as a country we have led in some areas in alluvial mining, and specifically in the area of the trainings that we conduct in WOW area, but also in terms of the practices at that time in those years. And obviously we now see that those practices have declined over time, best practices have declined over time, and with it some of the consequences that we see at the moment and we're discussing here. And so I guess my question is really about, given your number of years and experience within the mining sector and within MRA, if you had to look at prioritizing the challenges that face the sector at the moment, especially for alluvial mining, I mean, taking into account the fact that this alluvial mining happens in areas that are so remote in this country, very remote parts of the country, where that is perhaps the most, the only reliable source of income for people in those areas, that live in those areas. So having said that, and given your experience, number of experience, years of experience in the mining sector, if you had to prioritize all of the issues or challenges that we see affecting, especially the alluvial mining community, what would you put as the topmost priority? And in terms of the reforms that are happening, what is MRA proposing in terms of the reforms to address that challenge? Thank you.
I would say we just have to build the capacity with in-house to able to adequately address these activities. Capacity to get out there in the field, and there's report of illegal activities and such. MRA should respond quickly. Currently, we have officers that are ad hocly called upon to go and enforce or investigate and enforce. We should have a special group of people within the institution that enforces compliance with the law. If issues arise, we should be able to be there on the spot, investigate, find out what's going on, and put a stop to that. Currently, people are pulled from different areas of the MRA put together to try to investigate, and it does not work because they have other responsibilities as well, and priority is given to their duty statements and stuff like that, what they need to do. But it's an area, it's a big area that we really need to strengthen in-house to be able to respond quickly to instances of activities that are not, it's considered as not appropriate, not following the law.
Just as a follow-up question, would establishing a mechanism, if it doesn't exist, already exist, where you have all of the key players, stakeholders in regulating the industry, if you had a mechanism comprising of members of these regulatory organizations, where you have regular meetings, would that be, if it's not happening now, would that be a useful strategy?
Sorry, Governor, come again. I didn't quite get you there.
So if you, I'm just, as a follow-up, I'm asking, if you currently don't have a mechanism that exists comprising of all of the regulatory organized key stakeholders in this space, that you have regular meetings to keep each other up to date on what's happening, would that be a useful strategy going forward?
It would. We receive, complaints, issues all the time, and we try to address that as a group in regular meetings and that. But again, current staff that we have are already overwhelmed with their own responsibilities. So, as I said, we can have a branch or a division that deals with compliance alone would go a long way in addressing a lot of the issues that I have raised, illegal mining, all this. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I just want to ask you a couple of questions. Firstly, I think this, when we're talking about the alluvial mining industry, it is a very, very important sector in the country. Knowing that this sector can give opportunities to our small people. As government agencies and as leaders, our role is to ensure that our public, our people, actually benefit within our country. And given this situation, in the past, it's always alluvial mining has been reserved for citizens. Now, as somebody who's spent 30 years in this sector, I just want to ask you a personal opinion, which the government can seriously consider, is would you be able to, through MRA, be able to recommend that alluvial mining be left with our citizens only? That's the number one question. Number two, we realize that they're going into joint venture partners, joint venture arrangements in order to do some mechanized mining. Since you have an institution for training up in Wow, couldn't MRA take the challenge in trying to build up capacity for our own people to go to the next level so we can live out all these so-called investors coming in and actually raping us in all sectors in the country? So, we as citizens, we need to really look at how we are progressing. We seem to allow for others to come and just pick up anything they want in this country. So this is an industry that can be protected just for our citizens. So that's an opinion I got. But from your experience, if you see that this is the way to go, why should we not go ahead and make the appropriate amendments, put in the proper laws to ensure that this industry, which I believe can bring in a billion kina every year into the country, can be protected. Thank you.
Honorable Governor, thank you. Your first question about policy or law that bestows the right to alluvial minerals to landowners. As I mentioned, we are regulators. We regulate what's in law. The different ratio of ownership and benefits I've discussed. As it is, reserving the right to alluvials for landowners or nationals is currently it's a policy matter. It's in policy. As I said, it was policy was endorsed by NEC in 2021 that reserves the rights to alluvial resource for landowners, but we regulate the law that needs to be translated into law for us to give effect to that. As it is, it's not yet in law. Most of it is captured in the revised bill that is, I think, before the Legislative Council or Parliament. I'm not too sure about that. The MPGM should be here to answer to that. But most of that policy is captured in the revised bill. So if it is passed by Parliament, it then can be given effect to by the regulators, by MRA. As it is, no gadget. The second part of the question there.
Sorry, I was just trying to say that if we don't have capacity, you already have a school up there, so you could actually upskill and also assist our local people to go to the next stage, capacitate them so that they can actually competently, actually take ownership of 100% of our resources.
Yeah, Governor, that is correct. It's a lot of factors. Building capacity, in-house MRA. What we need to do is review the curriculum. The institution was established 15 years ago. The curriculum has not been reviewed. As I mentioned, we need to review that so that we identify gaps that we can improve on and capture areas that we think need to be captured to strengthen trainings for the people that are engaged in the sector. Yeah, that's what we need to do, review the curriculum to capture those. Yeah.
Thank you, Sam. Governor Powie, and perhaps if Governor Bird wants to make some remarks, then we'll wrap up.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll be quick. Just for passing comments for Mr. Nakitel to take note, and if you want to provide a written report to the committee for our future resolutions to government, I think you can do that. Generally, first comment is that when government institutions become statutory body, we see need for those agencies, and we get into authorities so that they become at par with the industry. Petroleum, mining, and MRA is no exception. But from your presentation, you are being affected in the discharge of your duties in terms of efficiency and effectiveness as a normal government agency, government department. So I think generally we can come to some understanding that the purpose for which the mining department, through this transformation process on creating an authority, has not been fulfilled in its full fullest and purpose. So these are very critical functions. If you are talking about capacity issues and some other functions that you are supposed to do are not being done, it raises a lot of alarm as to why governments have gone into making agencies of government to statutory authorities. Statutory authorities are supposed to be at par with the industry, providing effectiveness, efficiency in the leadership, in the discharge of the function. So that is first and foremost. I think for a greater interest, I am beginning to understand here. Secondly, there was something in terms of your financial capacity to operate as an entity, to do those kind of things that you're talking about in terms of inspections, compliance, and some of these things, like levy and funding capacity. Do you have any under the authority MRA? You need to let the committee know of this. If not, are you being advised to look into it under your reform? That's important. You can't just sit back and say, oh, we have no capacity, so we allow the industry to function on its own in an increasing environment where men and technology and a lot of abuse are coming in. An appropriate agency of government cannot just sit back and watch these things happening in our nose. Secondly, or thirdly, can you, Mr. Nakito, without fear or favor, give us an honest opinion as far as the MRA is concerned as of today. Do you see that there is abuse recently over the last 4 years, abuse, misuse, influx of illegal miners in this industry, and it's a growing concern for the independent state of Papua New Guinea for now and for the next 50 years and so? Or do you think we have done better in terms of regulatory management of the alluvial industry in this country? I think that will help us. You're the better person tasked with this duty to protect the country and our citizens.
Governor, I take note of your two earlier statements or comments. For the third one, illegal activities, we know it's been promoted by people from a certain country. As I mentioned, we have talked to the embassies to try to educate the people on the need to follow laws of different countries that they're engaged in. We also have tried to implement the compliance bit, make sure that reported activities, illegal activities are attended to through advertisements in papers, and then follow on engaging with the law enforcement as well as immigration, see whether proper permits have been issued for the people entering the country and engaged in the sector. Law enforcers are just to enforce the laws and the penalties that relate to that's captured in the law, in the Mining Act. So we have started that. Activities reported from Waubulolo, certain activities have been inspected. Again, regulatory mechanisms, law enforcement mechanisms in place. Everything ends up in court anyway. So we know we have a lot of challenges in MRA, which I have mentioned and you have noted. We need, as I said, we need to really have an enforcement, compliance enforcement agency that can look into this aspect of the illegal activities and try to contain, try to address. That's the challenge on MRA, is to make sure that we have that capacity in-house to attend to all these activities that are not conforming to the law.
Okay, Mr. Nekito, just for the interest of the nation, do you think it is, according to MRA, an emerging issue or it's a serious issue now that the country must deal with as a matter of national concern?
It has been emerging for some time, but now it's becoming serious. Given the low production and the low revenue from the sector, there's a drop in the last 3 years in the gold production and revenue from the sector. It's a serious issue that needs to be addressed by everyone concerned, including those at the borders, those at immigrations, the type of permits they issue, us at MRA having the capacity to go out there and arrest the activities, the illegal activities. So all institutions of governments need to, that have a part to play in this, needs to work together. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Sam. I'll give to Mr. Narwek, who has one more question to ask, and then Mr. Bird, and then we'll wrap up. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. Mr. Nakitel, based on your years of experience, we have over these years issues that you have, challenges that you have highlighted, and many from the industry have, in various forums, have called for, stakeholders in the industry have called for a separate act of Parliament, or a separate policy, separate legislation for small-scale and artisanal mining in this country. Do you think that call is timely and valid, based on the challenges that you have listed in your presentation?
I think it is timely. Currently, the law that we have is able to manage, but to really get into it and discuss things like, benefit sharing, ownership, all these things, it probably would need, a legislation of its own. So I probably will put it back to the committee as this investigative whatever continues, probably maybe raise with the minister responsible and see if the department responsible for policy matters can take that into considerations and see whether we need to have a separate standalone legislation to manage the sector. Yeah.
Thank you. Also, I think the small-scale mining industry is a very high-risk industry, and they don't receive bank loans and all this, and that has been, and also they don't receive support from the DDAs, from the provincial government, in terms of financing the SME or operations, and that has been a call for the industry for so many years. Now I read and heard that MRA is doing something to address that. Please, can you elaborate so that the rest of the stakeholders can hear about that?
Thank you, Member. We know financing alluvial is a very risky business. It has high risk. You think that the resource is there in the ground, you may dig and dig and dig, waste all your money, and you don't get anything. So there's got to be some ways or practices that needs to be employed by alluvial mining applicants and alluvial mining people who actually take part in mining, alluvial mining. So MRA has tried to establish a code of practice. A code of practice is putting together certain processes into a written document so that we can assist our local miners to basically try to follow. It's technical. It's really technical thing. So on would like to simplify it as much as possible, make it readable, understood by the miners, so you can follow certain processes put into place. Try to guide them in the process of obtaining the permit and making use of the permits, mining and generating a revenue. It all goes back to resource evaluation and all of these things. You know, these are highly technical areas. So MRA has developed something we call a code of practice for alluvial miners. It's not yet, it's being trialed now. We are trialing it in Wau and Bulolo. Try the methods of sampling and mining processing to see if we could maximize the recovery, all of that. So it's it's all technical. A lot of technicalities of sampling, especially. You got to establish a resource to make an activity become economically viable. If you don't establish a resource, you won't have a viable investment in whatever permits that you have applied for and obtained. Because alluvial gold is not like hard rock, where you can drill, and you identify a resource. Alluvial gold, they say in geology, they say it's erratic, meaning that here you find 5 gram or something, there you find 0.005 gram. It's not consistent. So there's a lot of risk involved there. So what we're trying to do is come up with some methods which is captured in the documentation we're trying to put together to assist alluvial miners to use, to follow. At least bring something to the bank and say, look, this is our proposal, business proposal, give us the money. At least there's some systematic documentation of what they intend to do so that they can convince the bank to give them the money. Otherwise, ad hoc, you take it to the bank, no, bank don't risk money.
Thank you. I have this idea or thought that we have some millionaires already in the small scale mining. Our issue is to mobilize them to reinvest their wealth into other small scale, upcoming small scale mining. So that's why those small scale miners, leaseholders, don't have capacity going out to get in foreign investors or developers. But we already have millionaires already existing in the small scale mining. Now, which entity, government entity, because they already taken the risk in small scale mining, so they'll be able to take that risk to invest in other small scale mining. So which entity should be responsible to mobilize those already well-to-do small scale miners to reinvest again into those small scale miners who don't have the capacity? Which entity, which government entity should be able to take that role to mobilize those small scale miners? Should it be MRA? Should it be Bank of PNG? Should it be BSP? I mean, so should it be a provincial government? Please help us in this. Based on your experience over these years.
It is the responsibility of MRA. What we've embarked on is we have started to create cooperatives with our assistance of our officers in the business section of the small scale mining branch in Wau. Try to mobilize people into cooperative societies. We have already talked to, and I think the national planning has been convinced that they can assist also. So they have allocated certain funds towards that. The intent is to mobilize people into working groups or societies that can have funds from the government channel through those societies to help them meet the cost of equipment and stuff like that to mine and trial, which will be managed by MRA anyway in terms of technicalities of the business. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stan. We'll move to Governor Bird. Thank you, Member for Wawaria.
Thank you, Chairman. Just in closing, and again, I'm just drawing from your responses to Governor Powie, and it seems to me that we have a serious issue, something that we can't wait 6 or 8 months or a year to deal with. So based on your response, I wanted to ask, what would your recommendation be? Because as you said, you know that the problem we face is from a group of people from one particular part, one particular country, from one particular province in that particular country. I think we also know that it is the same people from this particular province, from this particular country, that ended up ruining the environment of, I believe, West Africa, one of the countries in West Africa. And that African country has basically shut the door and thrown them all out of the country. And my understanding is this happened about 5 years ago. Now, I'm beginning to suspect that when these people were thrown out of West Africa 5 years ago, it's around the same time that we began to experience the problems. So I'm beginning to connect the dots between what you have said to Governor Powie, what's happened in West Africa, and it seems that we've inherited the problem, and these are the same people that ruined the alluvial mining sector in West Africa that are now in Papua New Guinea. So given that serious situation, what would your recommendation be to us as a committee? Because we need to stop it right away. In West Africa, they basically deported all of them. We see our good Minister for Immigration and Deputy Prime Minister already deporting a whole group of them. Given that we are losing $300 million a year, which is about 1.5 billion kina, based on the information that you supplied, and if we are losing 1.5 billion kina every year for the last 4 years, that's already 6 billion kina we've lost as a country to these people. I personally would like to see some serious actions in protecting our people, our landowners, protecting yourselves, because you don't have the capacity to deal with it. None of you have the capacity to deal with it at the moment. So would you go so far as to recommend to this committee to say, ban every single person that's coming from this particular province? We work with the government of that country to help us, and we get rid of every single one of them. If that is if we have to take the same decision that West Africa did, they've already set the precedent. So if we are going to do it, it's nothing new. Our people are unprotected right now. For the last 4 years, we haven't been able to protect our people. We haven't been able to close our borders. We haven't been able to stop $300 million worth of gold from somehow just miraculously disappearing from our country. So, would it be a recommendation? I know you are focused in the mining area. I'm more interested in the bigger picture. We can't do anything right now, and I want to take a shortcut to solve the problem. Would it be a recommendation that, first of all, and I know that immigration is not here, and I know that Labor Department is not here, as the Chairman has said, would it be a recommendation then to, first of all, refuse all permits, all entry permits from anyone from this particular province, from this country? 2, to start rescinding all the employment permits and entry permits for all of these people from this particular country, from this particular province, to save our country, to save our resources, and to save our people. What would you say to that, Mr. Nectar?
Hon Governor, what I would say is that, people that come into the country should have a purpose to be here. And purpose has to be genuine. They got to obtain proper permits and that to be in the country.
No, me understand. But you mi sabe pinis lo tok blow you yet. Osem you mi sabe olsem des lo main troublemakers you mi sabe pinis lo. You yet you talk. Lo neck blow you. So me kisim neck blow you na me like ask him. You was man ya. Walk blow you. You know walk blow me. Walk blow me lo support him you olsem government country na talk walk him. So me come back lo you na. You sabe pinis lo des lo all binatang no good ya. You sabe pinis. You mean no call him name blow straight, but you sabe pinis. How about me banisim all people blow me? Resources blow me, country blow me. How about me make it?
I would say, lawbreakers are not invited in this country. They got to go. They got to go. You break the law, you're not a, genuine, person to be in this country. You're not from here. If you're from overseas, so you break the law, you got to go. You don't need to stay here anymore. You got to go. You got to make sure that you get out of here.
Thank you very much. We will proceed. First, yes, we'll get there. What we will do is have a presentation by all of the state entities that are here. That will be starting with, before lunch, we will start with Central Bank, FASU, and then after lunch we'll go to Customs. And questions will be asked after the presentations are made, so in the interest of time. Thank you very much, Mr. Negatiel. Just from my own observations, and one or two questions before we wrap up, I'm curious to know, your organization, does it collect a levy? Does it imposes a levy, 0.5%? Is that imposed by your organization? That's on production?
That is correct. That is correct.
How much do you make per year?
It's about 60 million, Kina.
You collect 60 million?
Yeah.
So your organization collects 60 million in levies?
Yeah.
What do you do with that money? What does your organization do with that money? That's a lot of money, 60 million.
That's a lot of money, yes.
And so you're now telling us you don't have the capacity to regulate, enforce the law, send inspectors, conduct investigations, yet you're saying you get 60 million a year? I'm curious to understand this. Please help.
We just need to look at, changing certain things, give effect the law that regulates.
Mr. Negatel, this question is very simple. What happens to that 60 million that your organization collects per year? That is the 60 million that you could use to recruit the people you need to carry out these activities. That's the 60 million that you could use to carry out the audits and inspections. For instance, we all know who the players are. We all know who they are. They are not hiding in foreign countries. They are here in plain sight. In fact, many of us here know their office section allotment number and how they're operating. So I'm curious to know how, with 60 million, you can't conduct a basic investigation, or your organization can't conduct an investigation into this. What happens to that 60 million? What does MRA do with that 60 million? Does it go back to the national government, or does MRA utilize it? Or a portion of it's retained by the national MRA? Help us understand this so we can help you.
It's used for the MRA's functions. We'd like to, with the...
So, Mr. Negatel, very quickly, does MRA get budgeted funds? You request funding from the national government and you get funds from the national government, am I correct?
We get funds from the levy and the licensing fees.
Oh, okay, so your funding is exclusively from just the levy and licensing?
Levy and the license fees, yeah.
So you get no grants whatsoever from the national government?
No.
Oh, okay, that
but
makes
that's still plenty of money.
It is. What's your staffing? What's the staffing level like? Your organization? How many staff on strength do you have?
On strength, 150.
150.
We need more.
Yes. And of this 60 million that MRA receives, what amount is apportioned for enforcement activities?
We may have the money, but we don't have the capacity.
When you say you don't have the capacity, I'm assuming you don't have the workers, you don't have the experience, skills.
Officers, yes.
Why is that?
Part of it is through the procurement process. We follow the public service procurement. It takes long.
Is
No.
DPM the problem? Let me just go straight to that.
Yeah,
Is
I
it
would think so.
DPM?
I
You have
mean,
any problems with DPM?
our process in procuring, we're following the DPM's process. So, you know, when you arrive at trying to get somebody, he refuses because the offer is low. You know,
Have you tried upgrading those positions? Again, I know it's a DPM function.
we need to look at that. We need to talk about that.
We need to look at it or we need to do it?
Look at it to do
Looking at it can take a few years. We don't have a few years. Stand
it. Okay,
seriously.
okay, okay.
Problem em stabia. All people blame me, but start killing all man about now. You know, it's going to make us all look bad on the world stage because our agencies are not responding. So question blood semenia em stabia. Is DPM the problem? If we call DPM in here and set them next to you, would that help you in getting to the solution quicker? If we are asking them the question on your behalf?
Yeah, if the committee can, raise it with them.
The committee will.
Okay.
So, on notice, the committee will be also calling the Department of Labor, IPA, Migration, Police, IRC, to also turn up and explain why these committees or these organizations aren't working together to protect this very important sector for Papua New Guineans. From our very brief discussions here, first and foremost to the audience, to the people of Papua New Guinea, this is just the beginning of this journey. We have a long way to go yet. But we're going to be effective in delivering recommendations that we believe need to be taken up immediately. Members of this committee here are very serious about their work, and we expect that level of seriousness from those who also attend. MRA, it's obvious that there's a lot of work yet to be done. Your organization needs a serious restructuring. That's from my own experience, I can just see that straight away. It does not appear to have enforcement and prosecutorial capabilities. That's very important. You need to develop that immediately. These are your teeth that are supposed to be out there protecting the interests of Papua New Guineans, and we feel that you have not adequately developed them. It's the same with many authorities in the country, actually, that are charged with the responsibility of regulating and enforcing laws to protect PNG interests for, say, forestry, fisheries, MRA, minerals. And as pointed out by members here, the gates are wide open. We have all manner of characters coming to this country, most of whom are not genuine taxpayers, most of whom are not here to do what is right by our laws. And it's because we let them. It's because we let them. We're responsible. We're at the gates, we're at the doorway, and we're letting them come in here and do this to our people. Shame on us. So, having said that, Stan, thank you very much for your insight. This is an opportunity for you to also highlight the capacity issues that your organization faces and how we as a committee can help you. You've got some very credible members of the committee here who are going to make some strong recommendations that have to be taken up by executive government.